what you know not. And in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it is He who appointed you as representatives. Khala'if al-ard, vicegerents, successors. That He has placed you as successors or representatives on the earth and raised some of you by degrees over others. That He may try you, that He may test you in that which He has given to you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, truly your Lord is swift in retribution and truly He is forgiving, merciful. Now when we reflect on these verses and we understand the meaning of khilafah, the role of the khilafah, meaning the one who has sent as a representative, in these verses, the khilafah is represented by the human being. And so then it denotes universal human inheritance and responsibility. That this is something that applies to all humankind. Every single human being. If you're the son of Adam, then you have a responsibility on this earth. And then it's a question of, do you fulfill that responsibility or not? Because it's a conscious choice. And so since all human beings are in their inner reality, because this is how Allah created us, that we are the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that representative of Allah on the earth. And so this gives us a sense of responsibility, mas'uliyah. To do what? To fulfill the trusts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given to us, wherever we may be, whenever we may be, and whatever condition we may be in. We know that the first Khalifa on the earth was Adam, alayhi salatu wassalam. And so insofar as Adam, alayhi salam, he represents humanity as a whole. That when Allah created Adam, alayhi salam, all of us were in the loins of Adam. And then we came from him, one by one, generation after generation. And so insofar as Adam alayhi salam represents all of humanity as a whole, so we can understand from this, all human beings are representatives of Allah on the earth. So what's our responsibility then? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمِيثَاقَهُ الَّذِي وَاثَقَكُمْ بِهِ إِذْ قُلْتُمْ سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصُّدُورِ. So this is in the beginning of Surah Al-Ma'idah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, and remember the blessing of Allah upon you, the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us, and His covenant, His agreement that He made with us, His covenant, because this is something that is binding upon us as human beings. His covenant by which He bound you. And when you said, Sami'na wa ata'na. So here comes the choice. Here's the mithaq, here's the contract, here is the covenant, that agreement that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah created us, Allah gave us blessings, Allah placed us on this earth for a reason. We are His representative. So then this is a contract. We are supposed to do what? The response then, قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey. That's a conscious choice. It's a conscious choice. And then have reverence of Allah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows indeed what lies within the hearts. So when we fulfill this role as a representative, we have blessings, and what are we supposed to do with those blessings? We're supposed to use those for khair. We're supposed to use those for good. We're supposed to use these as acknowledging what Allah has given to us, and this is our form of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gives us knowledge, then we follow that knowledge and we apply it. This is hidayah. This is guidance. That whatever you know, you apply. So what's the result? That if we fulfill this covenant, if we fulfill this agreement, by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us guidance, told us what to do, given us commandments, told us what to stay away from. That's our covenant. And that by doing that we spread khair around those who live amongst us. For ourselves and for those who are around us. Fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah. Well, what's the result? What do we get out of it? What do we get out of it? Allah promised us. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَا يَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَلَيُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَى لَهُمْ وَلِيُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا يَعْبُدُونَنِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا وَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Allah tells us, Allah has promised those among you who believe. This is part of our responsibility. Believe in Allah. Those who believe and عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, perform righteous deeds. If we do these two things, we believe and we do good actions. Believe in good and then work good. What's the result? He will make you representatives on the earth. Khulafa. He will make you successors on the earth. As He caused those before them to be representatives or khulafa. And He will establish for them their deen. He will establish for them their religion, which He has approved for them. And that surely He will change their state of fear into a state of security. So look at all of these results that come out of that. That when you believe and do righteous deeds, Allah will make you a representative on the earth, just as He made those who came before you. And then He will make your deen firm. He will establish for them their religion. The deen will be made firm on the earth. And then your state of fear will be changed into a state of security. They will worship Me, not ascribing any partners unto Me. And whosoever rejects that, whoever disbelieves thereafter, it is they who are iniquitous. And then Allah continues, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Establish the prayer, give zakat, obey the Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, so that you may receive mercy. So these are verses in Surah An-Nur. And the scholars, some of the mufassirun, the commentators on these verses, they say that this verse was revealed about the Sahaba, that after having lived through many years of conflict and of persecution, they asked, is there a time that's going to come when we can stop fighting, when we can put away our swords and we can live in peace without fear? They were asking that after the difficulties and the conflict and the persecution, is there a time when we'll be able to live in peace and security without any fear? And so then this verse was revealed to them. It's a promise, wa'ad, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. According to some of the mufassirun, this refers to the time of the Khulafa ar-Rashidun, the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, of Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhum jami'an wa ardahum. Whereas others, they refer this to all the believers. That is not only limited to their time, but rather all of the believers in the subsequent times who spread the deen of Islam, who work to spread the message of Islam through our actions, and those who inherit the earth as successors or as deputies of those who came before them. So we also represent those previous generations who came before us. We represent those who established good on this earth, who established justice, who established mercy on this earth. If we follow in their footsteps, we are representatives of them as well. Because they were of the best of generations and we want to follow in their example. So when we look at our current condition, as Muslims living here in Canada, we live here generally in a state of freedom to practice our faith. We live in a state of relative security. We don't have this fear, this constant sense of fear. It doesn't mean that we don't have our struggles. Yeah, we do have our struggles. And sometimes things do happen within our community or towards the Muslims. We know that instances of Islamophobia exist. We know that. But these are instances. It's not the status quo. It is not a consistent state of fear that some people have in certain areas of the world where they're concerned about bombs being dropped over their head or soldiers breaking down their doors and then pillaging and killing and raping and all these horrific things. That there are some of our brothers and sisters who are experiencing this in the world as we speak. But here in Canada, we don't have that. We don't have that state. And so then it's up to us, all of us, and especially the new generation, especially the young children, especially our youth, those first and second generation Muslims who were born and raised here, and then they have their children who are born and raised here. We have to understand, we're all Canadian Muslims, and so we have this responsibility to uphold our faith, to hold on to our faith and to practice our faith as we need to be practicing our faith. This is our responsibility, and we practice our faith in a manner that allows others to see how we can in fact contribute to the society that we live in, so that we become a source of good for those who are around us and people can see it. Why do we do this? It's for Allah. It's not so that people can say these things about us. It's not so that people can say, oh, look how good we are. Our intention should be sincere, and we do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is one of the impacts that it has when others see our contributions within the society. And so it's a means through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us as being representatives, successors in this land. Please move forward and find whatever spaces that you have. Fill those spaces, because we have brothers who are still coming in, and so that they have a space for them to be able to sit. So when we consider our place here in Canadian society, we have that responsibility to uphold good character, to have akhlaq, to have the character of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to strive to benefit the people of this society. This is an integral part of our faith. We are an integral part of this society, and we have that responsibility of fulfilling our faith, our duty as Muslims, by being able to spread this good. We're here to stay. Muslims are here to stay in Canada. And no one can tell us otherwise. This is our place. But we have that responsibility to fulfill. We must fulfill the trust that has been given to us through our faith, to fulfill our covenant here, because it's an agreement that we have, that we're living in these lands. We have an agreement that we have to abide. Not only the agreement that we have with the authorities, that we're not going to break the laws, that we're going to be law-abiding citizens, etc. That's part of our faith. But that agreement that we have, that covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we're going to work righteousness. We're going to be a source of good for those people who are around us. This is how we become integrated into Canadian society. It's not by changing our beliefs. It's not by changing our ways or compromising our principles. No. It's not about that. And we shouldn't compromise our faith or our principles. We can live here as practicing Muslims. And this is a message especially again for our youth. Be good Muslims. Practice your faith. Learn your faith and put it into implementation. We don't have to give up our faith, and we shouldn't. We practice our faith as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to us. And so rather we live in this society, we live practicing our faith, whereby others can see the benefits and the blessings that we have been given through our faith. There's a hadith that is narrated in the collection of Imam Ahmad. عن أنس بن مالك قال ما خطبنا نبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلا قال لا إيمان لي من لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له. Reflect on this hadith. لا إيمان لمن لا أمانة له ولا دين لمن لا عهد له. That whoever has no amana, no trust, that you can't be trusted, then their faith is not complete. La iman. That the Prophet ﷺ is saying their faith. La iman meaning that he does not have complete faith. He doesn't have faith that is complete. Liman la amanata lah. That if people can't trust you, if you don't have this sense of amana, that if people entrust you with something and then you break their trust, this is not the way of the Muslim. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, and this Anas radiallahu anhu, he said, "Ma khatabana nabiyullah illa qala," that he never used to give any khutbah or to speak to us except that he would say this: "La imana liman la amanata la, wa la dina liman la ahda la," and that you have no deen if you do not fulfill that covenant, right? If you have this covenant, you have to fulfill it. So whoever has no ahd, they have no covenant, they have no agreement, then you're not going to have your deen. Because if you don't have this ahd, you're not fulfilling your role, you're not fulfilling your duty, then the deen is not going to be established in your life and in those who are around you. And so we need to work, establish ourselves within the community. How? By spreading the goodness of our faith through our actions. We work together with other groups. Whether they're Muslims or non-Muslim, is not something that is based simply on faith. This is who we are as Muslims, that we do this, and that we spread good. So things that we can do in terms of, like, for example, helping the poor. Brother Imad mentioned in an announcement before the khutbah about the barbecue that's happening on Sunday at the London Muslim Mosque to help those people who were affected by the explosion in Old East Village on Woodman Avenue. So that we can go, we can donate, give monetary donations, and to help support those people who were impacted and affected. We're a part of this community. And so when people go through difficulties and hardship, it's part of our faith. We need to step up. We need to be able to contribute. We need to be able to do something. And it's not only when these things happen, but rather on a consistent basis. If we can do soup kitchens, if we can help out those who are homeless, if we can do our part to contribute, to uplift the people who are less fortunate within our own community, locally here, right? We understand that we have brothers and sisters who are suffering overseas, and we have to have concern for them. But that doesn't mean that we forget about those who are going through difficulties here, whether they're Muslim or not. We have our role to play within this community. We establish connections with other organizations. We build bridges as a means to establish mutual respect, as a means to be able to educate others. People don't know who we are. They don't know what Muslims or Islam is all about. They don't know who Muslims are. So we can do that. How? Through our actions. We can do that. We can teach people and educate them about Islam and Muslims simply by our actions. That's one of the greatest forms of dawah. We can also focus on developing ourselves. When we educate our own children, we build our families within the homes. We educate our children by teaching them the deen and akhlaq, proper etiquettes, adab. Simple, basic, good character that we can have. So, when we come to the masjid, you have certain adab or akhlaq. That when you interact with people, we have certain adab, we have certain akhlaq, we have certain manners. Right? We don't bully others in school. We don't call people derogatory or bad names. This is not part of our faith. It's not who we are. And so then, this is part of tarbiyah, right? That this is upbringing. This is when we raise our children that we teach them these things. And we simultaneously work to spread this message of goodness of Islam. Even if we may find ourselves to be in a disadvantageous or difficult situation. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. That they will prefer others over themselves, even if they're in difficult situations. So what we need to do is build a story for our community. Muslims have been in London, Ontario for such a long time. In fact, it's one of the oldest and most well-established communities in all of Canada. We've been here since the beginning of the 20th century. And according to some estimates, even before that the end of the 19th century. So we have to build our story. We have to build our story in this community. And we are all pieces of this greater picture. Every single one of us, young or old, you all have your part to play. You all have a part of this story to live. And that's what it's about at the end of the day. Where do you fit in this picture? That we're composing this grand picture within our community. Who are the Muslims of London, Ontario? Who are the Muslims of Canada? We're a part of this picture. What part do you play? Where do you fit in? Find that role and then fulfill it. Everyone contributes. And so even if it's something that is small, but we can do something. We can make a contribution, every single one of us. And that's what it is that we need to focus on. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. I'll conclude with a hadith narrated in the collection of Imam al-Tirmidhi and Imam Ahmad. عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا أراد الله بعبد خيرا استعمله. قالوا وكيف يستعمله؟ قال صلى الله عليه وسلم يوفقه لعمل صالح قبل موته. Anas radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, if Allah desires good of a servant, then He uses him. And so then the Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim, they said, Ya Rasulullah, what does that mean? Allah employs you, He uses you. What does that mean? And so the Prophet ﷺ answered by saying that He directs him to perform good deeds right before his death. That He directs you to do good, to implement, to apply, do righteous deeds before his death. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, كُلُّ عَبْدٍ يُبْعَثُ عَلَى مَا مَاتَ عَلَيْهِ أو كما قال. That every servant will be resurrected based on those actions that they do and those actions that they die upon. And so the idea here is, if you engage yourself with doing good all the time, we don't know when that time is going to come when our life here will end. We don't know that. But when you engage yourself in doing good all the time, if you're doing something good and that's the state that you die in, that's the state you go back to Allah in, and that's the state that you'll be resurrected. And this is the way that Allah uses you. He employs us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He uses us. We want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to use us, to employ us, so that we be granted this tawfiq, this facilitation that we do good in our lives. And that we continue doing good to the very last moment when we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't forget of those who are less fortunate here and work towards alleviating their difficulties. And we should also not forget about our brothers and sisters who are suffering elsewhere, wherever they happen to be on the earth. On Sunday there's going to be a rally in Victoria Park that is going to remember the plight of our brothers and sisters currently right now in Kashmir, who are suffering because of what the government is doing to them there. And that they have cut them off from the world, literally. And so we need to do our part. Remember them in your dua, and to bring to consciousness, to the consciousness of those who are around us, to ourselves and to others, the plight of innocent human beings who are being persecuted because of their faith. We don't have to deal with that here, but we have brothers and sisters who are dealing with that elsewhere, whether it's in Kashmir or in other places of the world. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to alleviate the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Kashmir and in other places, wherever they may happen to be. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك يا ربنا سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين وانصر إخواننا المستضعفين المظلومين في كل مكان. انصرهم في مشارق الأرض وفي مغاربها والطف بنا وبجميع المسلمين بلطفك فيما جرت به المقادير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. فأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة.